Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. This is hour number 2 of our Monday, September 8 edition of the Matt Murphy Show. Thank you for being around with us. Have you not delivered your turkey hat to Ken Weaver as of yet there, Jackson?
Have not. We're going to save it for the Sports Minute, remember?
Right. We had to suspend the Sports Minute because we were running a little bit tardy, and we're going to do that in the 4 o'clock hour. The Action Jackson Sports Minute coming up a little bit later on this hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Exactly 60 seconds of consolidated good sports content. 60 seconds on the nose. I expect it to be 60 seconds, no longer than 60 seconds, no shorter. 60 seconds on the nose, as counted up by me, your host.
I'm going to scream about the Titans and try not to swear.
Oh, my goodness.
Fiddlesticks.
Cam Ward looked all right.
Cam Ward looked all right.
I mean, it's a progression, right?
Yeah. It's just, we'll talk about it at 4:55.
We'll talk about it then on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll also talk about the debate from this past Friday at some point this hour next on Super Talk, and I'm curious if you have any thoughts on it. If you have those thoughts, get them into us at 615-737-9986. I'll say this. If you listened, I appreciate it. If you did not, you can catch it. I know it's on the podcast page, 997WTN.com. The audio is, and I believe we're getting audio up on the YouTube page. You can find that on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So the audio is available online. If you listened or were in attendance, I would be very curious as to your thoughts, because it's difficult. You know that, my role as a talk show host is to ask questions, to probe deeper on subject matters that are of interest to me, to hold political figures accountable, and to speak for you through this radio platform. And frankly, y'all know me well enough by now to know that I don't suffer fools gladly. I don't appreciate being treated. Let me say it more precisely. I do not appreciate the audience being treated like they're dumb. And sometimes we get that with, deflection or subterfuge or whatever. And that's what's going to set me off more than anything. Look, you don't have to agree with me on anything. I'll give you a good example. Some have asked about my reaction to Gino Bolso's response to my question about medical marijuana. Gino Bolso and I are going to disagree on this matter. And I believe that we'll have a good opportunity at some point between now and October 7th to have a conversation about our disagreement on this matter. But it was not my place to disagree with him Friday night. It was my place to ask questions and to have those questions answered by the candidates on the stage, and then allow the audience to absorb those answers and to find appreciation or a lack of appreciation in the answers given, depending on what your perspective might be, depending on what your point of view might be. I thought it was a good debate amongst the top-tier candidates of the 7th Congressional District. I mentioned at the opening of the show that obviously there are more candidates. There was one person that wrote me and said, "I'm not listening to this debate because you're not allowing Stuart Parks on stage." Well, a couple of things. Number one, Stuart Parks could have been on stage. All he had to do was demonstrate that he had money in his campaign to win an election. And it was not my call as to where to cut it off. And it was not my call as to where to set that money in terms of in your campaign coffers. For those who were not listening last week, a poll was done and the top 3 poll getters were invited on the stage. And then after that, anyone that demonstrated, I think it was $250,000 within their political campaign, which is a fair amount of money to mount a challenge over the last month of this political special election cycle, was allowed on stage too. And I think that's how Matt Van Epps was there. So you had Matt Van Epps, Jody Barrett, Gino Bolso, and Lee Reeves. By the way, Lee Reeves just picked up a couple of endorsements for those who get into that sort of thing. I don't get into endorsements. I don't necessarily believe in them. I don't offer them. I'll tell you whom I'm supporting. I'll tell you who I'm voting for if I have a vote in a given election, but I don't endorse candidates because I think I think it's silly. But for those who value the opinion of others when analyzing these types of things, I think Lee Reeves picked up a couple of big endorsements. I think Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson endorsed him. Jack was at the debate, by the way, watching the proceedings, and I imagine maybe that was a part of his decision-making process as to why he selected Lee Reeves and came out with his endorsement just the last few hours from now. All of that to say, we'll dissect that as best as I can, but when you're in the moment and you're asking the questions and you're engaged in the moderation as I was, as Michael Lotfi was, it's a little bit more difficult to step away far enough to kind of get the feel of the room and who's winning and who's losing. But I think it was, every contestant that was on the stage, every candidate on the stage said that they felt like it was a good 2 hours. And, if every candidate's complaining or every candidate's happy, then I think we did our job. If half of them are complaining, half of them are happy, then maybe we didn't. So I'll take that as a victory for the 7th Congressional District, not for me or not for AFP, but for the 7th Congressional District. All that to say, have you ever, y'all remember the movie A Time to Kill? A Time to Kill has been referred to as a kind of a modern retelling of To Kill a Mockingbird in a lot of ways, starring fabulous actors like Kevin Spacey was in that movie. I think Donald Sutherland was in that movie. Samuel L. Jackson was in that movie, and Matthew McConaughey was in that movie. I thought of this film over the weekend. More specifically, I thought of the closing monologue by Matthew McConaughey over the weekend. Do y'all remember that monologue? Matthew McConaughey is representing Samuel Jackson, and some of the it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but Samuel L. Jackson, his daughter was violently raped in the film and killed. Was she killed? I can't remember. But I remember that Samuel L. Jackson took the law into his own hands, and he is now on trial for murder. And in his defense, Matthew McConaughey asked the jurors to close their eyes, and he painted a picture for them that culminated in this.
Beaten, broken body, soaked in their urine, soaked in their semen, soaked in her blood, left to die. Can you see her? I want you to picture that little girl. Now imagine she's white.
You remember that scene? It's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. The suggestion being that the jury perhaps did not fully appreciate the value of that little girl's life as her father did because she was a black girl. Incredibly powerful in the way that it presented how we view things, perhaps depending on race. As powerful a moment, or certainly almost as powerful a moment as the famous end to Kill a Mockingbird, where Atticus Finch does not get justice. For the victim that he was seeking justice for. And yet still he won the appreciation of the town. And, there's that famous stand up, scout, your father's passing. Imagine that she's white. It was a scene that I thought of over the weekend. I'm not trying to over-dramatize this when I say it. That if this woman in Charlotte, North Carolina was black, it would be splashed on every single television network in the United States of America. If the race of the assailant was different and the race of the victim was different. And I defy any one of you to tell me I'm wrong, because I know I'm not. And just as that scene in A Time to Kill reminds us that justice and our treatment of these situations ought to be blind to the color of one's skin, and that there have been times in America's history that we have not lived up to that blind justice. And we have not lived up to the promise offered to us in the Declaration of Independence. I thought of that scene because, sadly, I look at a mainstream media now that has decided that they are going to cover stories based on skin color. They are going to decide which stories merit their networks, obviously based on who's doing the killing and what color they are, and who's doing the dying and what color they are. I guarantee you that if Chicago, Illinois had 9 or 10 or 11 people die per weekend and they were all black and they were dying because white people were killing them, they'd be covering that too. And is it okay that we talk about this? Is it not fair that we talk about this? Because some will suggest, listening to this radio show, that I'm the bad guy for bringing it up. How am I the bad guy for calling out what is clearly racially biased in terms of the reporting of ABC and NBC and CBS and NBC? And I can give you example after example of what I'm talking about. Yet I can't show you an example of CNN, hashtag never CNN, covering this story from over the weekend. I can't give you an example of, maybe there's something that happened today that I missed, but I looked for it all weekend long and I couldn't find it on any national network. And I struggle pronouncing this woman's name, and I am sorry in advance for doing so, but I'm going to offer you some of the details of this story involving the victim, Irina Zarutska. And I could be mangling that, and if I am, I'm sorry. Sadly, I've not heard it pronounced a lot because I've not seen a lot of reporting on this story. I've read it. Irina, I-R-Y-N-A, Irina Zarutska, Z-A-R-U-T-S-K-A, a Ukrainian refugee, by the way, who fled from that war-torn region, who settled in Charlotte. A gruesome video has emerged of this 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee going on to Charlotte light rail and being stabbed to death. And I believe that the coverage of this case has been spiked by media networks because she's white. That's my accusation. Or because she appears white. And what I want to do, and the reason that I brought up A Time to Kill and the reason that I compare these two situations is I want to look at these mainstream media networks and I want to ask them to close their eyes and imagine that this woman is black and that she was slaughtered by a white person. I don't take any pleasure in bringing this up, but I do this to suggest to you that they're not covering it because of this. Violent crime is a problem. No matter how much Freddie O'Connell wants to pretend it's not in Nashville, no matter how much the Memphis mayor wants to pretend it's not a problem in Memphis, no matter how much they want to cover it up, and they get to do so in large part because the mainstream media will not cover the crime problem that exists in Chicago, that exists in Baltimore, Maryland, that exists in many of these blue-run cities, and that's largely because it's black-on-black crime, and their lives are valuable too. Their lives matter too. Black lives matter. CNN? And in this case, a most egregious example of allowing lawlessness to fester in your community and to allow a clearly mentally deranged human being to walk free on the streets until such time as they decide to kill. And now you won't cover it because you think it doesn't fit your narrative, which is exactly why they're not covering it. And it does anger me. Because about 10 minutes ago, these networks cared about Ukraine. About 10 minutes ago, these networks cared about refugees. About 10 minutes ago, these networks cared about killing. And then suddenly they don't care. And you and I all know why they're not covering this story. And it's disgusting. 615-737-9986, 24 after the hour. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Uh-huh. That's so funky. I can't get in the middle of it. I know. Keep it going. I just can't. I can't get in front of that. Got it roll. Where'd you find that? I mean, that's good stuff. You just keep that up. You just keep that up, young man. It's getting me fired up for the week.
That's the way to play that funky music, Brother Jackson.
Play that funky music, comma, white boy,
yes,
period. Who said that?
Who did sing
Who
that
said
song?
that?
Play that funky music, white boy.
Play that funky music. Die. And I don't know. That wasn't Kool in the Gang. Who was that?
No, I think it was a white guy who sang it.
Was it?
Who? What? Now we got to look it up.
Uh-huh.
We should know this, Brother Marvin.
I'm embarrassed. I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for the explosion on the super text line. There's going to be a slight delay, and then there will be explode. Wild Cherry.
Play that.
Okay.
Cherry.
I never would have gotten Wild Cherry.
Yeah.
Wild Cherry.
Although I do appreciate a delicious Pepsi Cola Wild Cherry Zero.
You know what?
Ooh, good stuff.
That is good.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot deny that.
Wild Cherry. I see. I wouldn't have gotten that one. I want to say, any name of any band that I would say would now embarrass me. So I'm just going to say thank you. It was not KC and the Sunshine Band. Who said that? That was actually one of my guesses. That was SATURDAY night. You know who's going to be celebrating Saturday night? You know who's going to sing that song all the way home from Knoxville, Tennessee?
Me.
No, that's not true. If Tennessee wins and you actually get a ride home with me, you're not allowed to speak. That's going to be the rule. I'm just going to establish. I'm going to say, Jackson, you can either have a ride home and not talk, or you can walk home and celebrate all you want.
I'll wait till we get past the point of no return, and then I'll start talking. Like you're dropping me.
Somewhere.
We're pulling into the neighborhood, and I just start letting you have it.
Just yakking. Matt, I wanted to get to you, and Ryan, I wanted to get to you, but I am out of time for this segment, but we're getting to you next segment. Listen, y'all tell me if I'm wrong or out of bounds, but I think you all know that I am right, that the media coverage of this story, this is a tragedy, and it was a tragedy that was wholly preventable. It is way past time that we have a discussion about mental health and the lack thereof. And I don't want to hear any more about not needing more mental institutions. Friends, I understand the Constitution. I understand what it means to ask this of you, but we've got to have a discussion about locking these people up. More on that in a moment. It's past time on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. let's have a discussion about Irina Zarutska, the 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed to death on a Charlotte light rail train. It is a flashpoint on the issue of crime in our cities. And this response by the Charlotte mayor is just ridiculous. Charlotte, North Carolina. I may have just said it wrong. I apologize. The unprovoked attack happened shortly before 10 p.m. August 22nd. We're just talking about it now because the video has just been made available. The victim is a refugee who you would think fits all of the criteria to be highlighted as an example of unfortunate crime that's happening in our larger cities across the United States of America, in as much as she fled war-torn Ukraine. And I thought, all of these folks that have the little Ukrainian flag on their X posts, on their little descriptions, I would think y'all would care about this woman, but apparently nobody wants to talk about this on the political left. Video of the attack shows Zarutska entering the train car. And, this is much like a subway, light rail. She takes a seat. She sits down, and she's facing in the same direction as the individual who is behind her and to her left. So it's two seats on one side of the train car, the subway car, and she's in the right-hand side of these two seats, facing in a direction. Behind her and to the left of her is the assailant. The assailant, I've watched the video. I do not recommend it. It's awful. Because you know what's going to happen, and you see it happen, and I've got a couple of things to say about how people responded to it in just a moment, but video of the attack shows the assailant. The train travels for about 4 minutes before the suspect, seemingly out of nowhere, pulls a knife from his pocket, unfolds the knife, stands up, and stabs the victim 3 times, kills her, dead. The suspect, 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown, was then arrested upon leaving the train. Blood visibly dripping on the floor as he walked from the victim. The victim is unresponsive because she's dead. She was killed. There appeared to be no interaction whatsoever between the victim and DeCarlos Brown prior to his decision to take her life. Brown has 14 previous court cases in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison for robbery with a dangerous weapon, breaking and entering, and larceny. Charlotte Mayor Vi, or I guess it's Vi or V Lyles, offered her condolences, saying the video of the heartbreaking, well, I'll read you her entire X post from over the weekend. This happened on September 6th, so that would have been Saturday. She writes, stand by now. My computer's going to kind of try to screw with me. The video of the heartbreaking attack that took Irina Zarutska's life is now public. I want to thank our media partners and community members who have chosen not to show or not to repost or share the footage out of respect for Irina's family. It was senseless and tragic loss. My prayers remain with her loved ones as they continue to grieve through an unimaginable time. Like so many of you, I'm heartbroken, and I've been thinking hard about what safety really looks like in our city. I remain committed to doing all we can to protect our residents and ensure Charlotte is a place where everyone feels safe. So you're thanking your friends in the leftist media for refusing to face the violent crime that exists in your city. I guess that's one approach to take. I think, sadly, that we need to look at this. I understand why some might disagree, but I think you need to look at this. I think you need to understand what's going on. Is it a one-off? No, it's not a one-off. Is it rare? Yeah, it's rare, thank God, but it's getting less and less and less rare as we allow, sadly, individuals with clear mental instability on our streets. All of you know what I'm talking about. Now, I keep and bear, okay? But unfortunately, we have so many gun-free zones in and around Nashville, Tennessee, that there are times where I don't have my gun on me because I have to go into an area where I feel like I might get called out on it. I'm willing to judge that on a case-by-case basis, but the point being, you're told not to take a weapon into the subway. You're told not to take a weapon on public transit. You're told that that's illegal, and you're a law-abiding citizen, and so you're trying to follow the law. And a lot has been made of what these folks did who were on the subway car or on the light rail system at the time of this assault. Well, if I'm unarmed and he's got a knife, look, I would like to say that there's something that I could do. Nobody could have prevented the attack before it happened, right? The idea is, would it be possible to subdue the individual after the attack? And I agree with 9009. I don't know what a gun-free zone is, and I've never seen one of those signs in my life, okay? But on the one hand, the people of Charlotte, the officials in Charlotte and in Nashville and in Atlanta, let's just keep it in the Southeast, y'all. Birmingham, Alabama, Savannah, Georgia, all these leftist local officials say, don't bring your guns in here. We got you covered. The police will protect you. When you're being assaulted, the police are just minutes away, they say. You know, another case came to my mind, too. I mentioned the A Time to Kill, where Matthew McConaughey implored the jury to strip color away from this, or at least to get closer to this issue by imagining that this little girl was white and not black. And it's a sad testimony, but a very emotional one. And I ask you to imagine the media coverage if the races were reversed in this situation, if it was a white man that attacked a black woman on this subway car, where the media would be on this story. How many times would we have to hear, in Donald Trump's America, blah, 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 blah. You're not hearing anything. They're ignoring the story. Absolutely ignoring it. But there was another case that I thought of, and that was the case of Daniel Penny. Do y'all remember Daniel Penny? So based on the media coverage of this young woman, this 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee, Irina Zarutska, based on the lack of that media coverage on the national scene, I guess if Daniel Penny had just allowed, what was his name, Jordan Neely, had allowed Jordan Neely to just do his worst, and Jordan Neely had killed a white girl on that subway, we wouldn't have heard anything about it. But because Daniel Penny decided to defend himself and to defend the fellow riders of that subway, and unfortunately, Jordan Neely died as a result, it was a damn national news story. Why? Why? Why was that national news and this is not national news? I'd love to know your thoughts. Let's talk to Ryan, who is next up. Ryan, thank you for your patience. How are you?
Yes. How are you guys today?
Wonderful, Ryan. Thank you for calling in.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, thank you. Well, I would actually like to comment on the last thing you just said. It wasn't part of my call, but I am married to I'm a white man, 47 years old. I'm married to a black woman, 47 years old. We have 3 wonderful children. And to answer your question of what you just talked about, I believe it has to do with people that do not believe that people of different color can love each other and come together with each other. They have to make it into a racial issue. And that's what I would like to say about that. What do you think?
I agree with you. I mean, I think that it does not fit the narrative agenda. I think that many of these mainstream media networks, they think they can attract eyeballs to whatever narrative they're trying to push based on dividing us. I believed that in 2020, Ryan. I do not believe that there's nearly the division amongst black and white people and brown people and people of all races and all ethnicities and all backgrounds. I don't believe there's nearly the division that is presented in the mainstream media. I think they use this as a way to get eyeballs and to get ratings, and I think it's shameful.
And I would agree with you 100% because there's so many people that love each other out there.
100%.
The reason I did call real quick was I just got word from my aunt that my grandmother has about 2 days before hospice has decided to take her down. And I was just curious. I'm not real up to date about the real ID. I'm here in Nashville. All of them are in Houston. I tried to get a flight to go and fly. And they're like, well, do you have a real ID? No, I don't. Do you have a passport? No, I don't. But I do have a government-issued driver's license, and I do have a Social Security card. And they're saying I need to talk to TSA. Do you know, is there anything else that I could do other than going through that runaround to be able to actually book a flight? Because I can't do a 14-hour road trip.
I think, and I will have to look it up. I don't know if Ken's listening right now, but I think that you have missed the deadline on Real ID. So there was a point where to take a flight, you were going to have a Real ID or a passport, or you're going to have to go through some sort of special. I don't even know what you could do at this point if you don't have those two things to fly. I'm guessing maybe there's some sort of specialty circumstance provision that you can appeal to the TSA about, and I guess that's what they're telling you to do.
Yeah, it's what it sounds like. Sounds like a runaround, but I appreciate it. You guys always do great, and I love listening to you. Thank you so much.
When do you have to travel, Ryan?
It needs to be Saturday the 20th, so I've got about 2 weeks. So I'm going to call the DMV here in Ashland City and see what I can do about my.
Hold on, and don't go anywhere yet.
They will issue you a temporary permit until you get your actual Real ID license.
There you go.
Oh, is that you, Brother Ken?
That's Ken Weaver.
Me.
Ken Weaver delivering the real news. So
so just talk to the DMV.
Talk to the DMV and get an appointment.
Get an appointment, man. Get an appointment. I'm telling you, that's the best way to do it.
You have the time to get a Real ID.
Yes.
You just need to get an appointment as soon as possible. You need to be flexible with them, and like Ken just said, they'll give you some sort of temporary authorization that will get you on a flight.
Man, thank you so much, guys. I hope, God bless you.
Well, God bless you. Call us back, Ryan, and let us know how it goes.
Yes, sir.
And I'll tell you what, we'll take a break now, but Ken Weaver's got a story that he presented on his social media platform, Facebook, I think it was, about his experience with a Real ID, and we'll share that with you maybe in the 5 o'clock hour. It's 4:53 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.